Okay, again, welcome. We have a few housekeeping items. So we are recording. It should be say that somewhere on their thing. We hope to post this on our Facebook page so that people can check in with it anytime they like. I will be monitoring the chat as much as I can, as well as monitoring the waiting room. Not that I have to tell all of us this, but please, no inappropriate conduct. I'll be, if you do anything inappropriate, I'll have to like eject you from the room, right? But I know that's not going to happen. With no Zoom bombing here, I'm sure. I'm sure that everyone has got a lot to say, and we're going to hopefully get some information to you as best we can for what we know. So again, welcome. This is an open format kind of meeting. The only thing I need to tell you is some budget stuff from the PTO. I hope everyone got the snippet of the bank statement that I sent out. So we got about $61,881 in there. That puts us in a really good position for next year, right? Because we do have to pay for, the pupil path and the message boards and, all this other incidental stuff, calendars, planners, the grammar books. This is all stuff that has to go out in the first month of the year, right? So we're in a good shape for that, and then this fundraising starts all over again, and hopefully anything else that we do need, we'll be able to take care of. Budgets are going to be tight for the school. Mr. Berman does a phenomenal job with his budget and saving money and putting things around. It's incredible what he does. We work together to try to, address the needs of our kids, right? So whatever our kids need, we try our best to work together to get it taken care of. So with that, I'm going to open it right up to questions. Everybody should be unmuted. I do ask that you try to remember to mute yourself just so there's no background noise. Does anybody would like to start for questions for either me or Mr. Berman? If you use the raise hand feature, perhaps see you.
How do I mute?
There we go. Hello. I'm looking for somebody raising their hand. Is anybody raising their hand? Would anyone like to speak? Just go on, jump in.
Hi.
Oh, there we go.
I have my son is in 7th grade.
Yep.
I wanted to know if what the plans are for returning in September. I know the principals are working on, different plans throughout the city, and I wanted to know what Mr. Berman's plans are for this.
Mr. Berman? There he is. Hello, Mr. Berman.
Hello, Mr. Labella. Hello, parents and students, if there are any here. I hope you're all doing well. It's good to see you, those of you who I could see and hear. So, yeah. So, September. What will September bring? Nobody really knows what September will bring. Of course, we are in the midst of planning for a return in September based on the information that we have so far from the Department of Education. What I will say is that the plans are, while plans are being made by individual schools, we can expect these plans to change as we approach September. And so what may hold true today may not hold true tomorrow or the week after. But what we do know so far is that the Department of Education plans to open school in some sort of blended model, in some sort of blended way in September. What that means is that they do not expect all students to be in school all the time. And that would require some degree of in-person instruction and some degree of remote instruction. So what that looks like for each individual school may very well vary, depending on the physical structure of the school, how many classrooms they have, how many students they have. Now, those are critical pieces of data which we do have. We have received information from the Department of Education about our classes, our classroom sizes, and based on the current guidelines, how many students we can accommodate at any given time. So with the combination of instructional spaces and administrative areas, we can accommodate approximately 1/3 of our students at any given time. So what that would mean is that 1/3 of the students would be at school at any given time. Now, what does that look like? Well, it could be a whole academy is there. It could be a grade. It could be some combination. Probably some combination, because doing it by grade would mean that all teachers would just teach that same grade, and that doesn't make sense. But so what does that really look like? Right now, what that looks like is students would come to school basically for a week, and then they'd be home for 2 weeks. And then they would come to school for a week, and then they would be home for 2 weeks. Other options include, of course, having the kids come in for some part of the day in 3 sessions, which is not particularly efficient, or every 3rd day, which is kind of disjointed as well. There are no real easy answers to this and to what this would look like, and what a day in school would look like. We don't really know what that would look like either. But it would probably look a lot like, really limiting the movement of the children around the building, right? Certainly not congregating in large areas, in large groups of people, like for lunch and things like that. And then, of course, there's the issue with what does instruction look like for those at school and those at home. And one plan basically involves just simply videotaping each lesson. And so that students who are in school obviously will be part of the lesson and viewing the lesson. Well, they'd be part of it. And the students at home would be viewing that same lesson. So there would be some parity between what's being taught in school and being learned at home. Again, there are no easy answers, and there are no really good answers. I don't know what parents will do with young children while some students are at school and some are at home. I don't know. I know there are some families with middle schoolers that have concerns about their children being home while you all have to go back to work. I understand these issues, and I don't have really good answers for those questions right now. I don't know what the length of the day will look like. I do know that I'm hoping for some more direction from the Department of Education to standardize some of the things across the city, so that, for example, the hours that students are in school might be the same. I don't know. For example, does it make sense to keep the kids in school for 8 periods? What do they do for lunch during that time? Who supervises them during lunch during that time? Or does it make sense to give them 5 periods and then they can go home and eat lunch safely at home? I don't know. And I will tell you, we're going to be facilitating some of your input as well. And we've got a great leadership team. We've already started working on these ideas and these plans. We've been thinking about these for some time. What a September reopening might look like. But I hope I've painted a frame of, or at least an outline of a picture that that I think we will do the best we possibly can to provide the kind of instruction you expect for your children. And there will be more guidelines. There will be more non-negotiable things, like, for example, the numbers of students who we can accommodate at any given time, which again, that number is about 325. About 325 students based on the numbers of classrooms at 65 square feet per child or per person.
So, Mr. Berman, we
Yes,
have
sir.
a question in the chat, and I'm going to
Yes, sir.
expand on it.
Please.
For parents who want to opt out of attending school and want to do everything remotely, now I'm guessing this would include kids that have maybe pre-existing conditions, or just don't, or are afraid to go because they are more concerned about this than others. Would they have an option to volunteer to stay home, or is that something we could talk about?
That's a great question that has not come up in any of the conversations with the Department of Education. What has come up is they're expecting about 20% of adults across the city to require some kind of accommodations for remote learning. Now, I don't know if that number would apply to students as well. I think that there certainly will be medical accommodations for students. I don't know if there will be accommodations. I'm not about not feeling comfortable. Those are two very, very different things.
It could also be that there's a family. My mom's 91 years old today. Happy birthday, Mom. You're not watching, but happy birthday, Mom. And so now there might be a concern for other families that are in the same position. Well, you know, my mom lives with me. I don't want to send my kids because I don't want her bringing the virus home to my mom.
Yeah, I can relate. And again, I don't have an answer. I really don't have an answer for that.
Yeah.
I mean, the best answer for that is we stay put until there's a vaccine. That's one answer there. But it doesn't look like that's a great answer either, because there are obviously issues with that as well. We can only do the best we can to make sure everybody's safe, and plan wisely, and that's really what we're trying to do. So we'll put together some different teams to work on some different things. So, for example, we'll have a team working on the physical movement throughout the building and our programming and what that looks like. For example, we have a 6-day cycle program, which allows us to open up our program and offer a lot of additional things to children that a traditional 5-day program doesn't allow for. It does look like we're going to have to go back, at least temporarily, to a 5-day program, because based on the schedule changes and busing, that's a whole other issue. What does busing look like for 6th graders who take the yellow bus? Does that mean we need 3 times as many buses? It really is a concern. So I hope I answered the question.
Yep, Jeannie says yes.
Got a
She
little
gives a thumbs up.
Thanks.
Okay, so anything else about remote learning in September? I touched upon a little bit about the rising 7th and 8th graders and our incoming 6th graders. school for them is going to be the same as far as it would be if we had, regular school. They'll meet their teachers in the fall. I'm sure they'll get, Mr. Berman, a book reading list from somebody.
Summer reading lists are going out. Actually, there's a communication going out to our incoming families. I thought it would, normally we have an orientation by now. So I just wanted to connect with our new families. Excuse me, just to let them know, not the level of detail that I just shared with you about returning to school, but just a little bit about, understanding there might be some level of blended learning, and they'll get the summer reading assignment for the sixth graders. The seventh and the eighth graders are getting their summer reading assignments this week as well. So yeah, definitely those things are going on for sure.
Okay, so I believe we have a question about textbooks and stuff. So everything is on hold until September, right? We're not going to come after anyone for laptops or textbooks or anything at all. Everyone keeps a hold of everything until we get back, and then we worry about it then. Is that correct, sir?
Yeah, well, this week the Department of Education just started to allow staff members to go back into school to get items that they need for remote learning, to secure valuables and things like that. So what I need to do is I need to fill out a form, put the teachers' names or staff members' names, what areas they're in the school they're going to go to, and then that goes to the Brooklyn South Borough office. That gets approved through the Borough Safety Director. Then they assign a school safety officer for a special check-in for those people, and then they're allowed to enter the building. What I do expect, and so at this time, parents and students are not permitted to the building. I do expect at some point, though, in the summer that and if it's not the summer, it would have to be early when school opens, that people will be allowed back to get their stuff. I mean, we've got 1,000 students' stuff in desks and lockers and things like that, and they're entitled to get their stuff back, whether it's valuable to anyone else or not. It's their stuff, and it's valuable to them, and they should get it back. At that same time, any technology that was lent out, we'll collect that. I did want to talk a little bit about that at the PTO meeting, because that's another issue as well. But not only that, but when we come back, we will be issuing the if not right away, shortly thereafter, full refund checks for all of the senior dues. That was the full $150. Students will also get their yearbook, which is normally paid for from those senior dues, which we were able to pay for with our school budget last year. So rather than give it this year, I should say, so rather than give it back to the city, we were able to use it to buy yearbooks, and we were also able to use it to buy some special hoodies for our graduating seniors, which they'll get at the end, at the end of the summer, whenever we get back to school. So we do have those things coming up. I can tell you also, as far as graduation, the banner, which unfortunately I missed a proof on the first version, but was repaired very quickly, I must add, by Class Act. They are indeed a class act, and the corrected banner is up. And then beyond that, Miss McGarity is working on the virtual graduation video, which is hot in production. And while I don't have a particular release date, I know that everything that Mrs. McGarity has worked on and produced in the past has had a somewhat magical component to it, and I expect that this will be no different. In addition to that, the academies have been doing their own celebrations for awards assemblies. Normally, the academies have their own awards assembly because there are just too many outstanding children to give awards to at graduation. So while there were some graduation awards, there were a host of other awards that are given out at the senior awards programs, and those are taking place as well. So while we're unable to have the traditional events like the graduations and award ceremonies and things like that, and believe me, I can relate as much as anyone. You may know this about me, but my daughter just graduated college, and she just received an email yesterday that not only is her graduation canceled, not postponed, but canceled, it will not be taking place at any point in the future. They were very, very clear about that. So that was, of course, most unfortunate news. So I can relate. Thank you. And oh yes, trip money. All of that trip money that will be refunded as well. Anything that we have is going back to our families. That was one of the reasons why we didn't continue with the purchase of the caps and gowns. The kids already have pictures of themselves in caps and gowns. So if to spend, you know, whatever it was, $18 to $20 on the caps and gowns for something that you weren't going to need anyway, and then to start to subtract that money from the senior dues, I'd rather just get it all back to you. And by the way, if you really want a cap and gown, you can go on Amazon and buy one. They're really inexpensive. We think we were white this year, weren't we, Mr. Lavella?
I think we're being white every year now. I think that's easier.
Yeah. So simple to find a white gown and a mortarboard cap.
So, Mr. Berman, one thing it's two little things that are tangential. Somebody wants to know, why can't we have the Zoom meetings, live classes? And the CEC is asking that same question. And then speaking to you and others, it is not as simple to do that as it sounds. Also, now the kids who are coming in from fifth grade, or the kids that are going up, parents are concerned about regression, and they don't feel like they've gotten enough learning and they won't be ready for the next grade. Can you speak on both of those things?
Yeah, they might not be ready. We don't know what the instruction was like in schools, in the elementary schools where the kids are coming from. I expect some of it was outstanding and some of it was subpar. I do think that there's going to be a period of time for catch up. I think there's going to be a period of time for that we're going to need to spend on assessment in the beginning of the school year, so that we can really make sure that we understand what skills the kids are coming in with, what skills they might be deficient in, and how we're really going to approach that. I think the situation will probably be exacerbated with some of our students with disabilities. And again, tangentially, these are some of the other things that we really need to consider and think about. You know, perhaps there are some students who should be in school every day. Perhaps some of our ACEs students, these are our students with intellectual disabilities and Down syndrome and severe autism. Maybe these are students who should be in school every day. Now, of course, if we have those students in school every day, those are fewer students we can have in other programs. But, you know, these are all really important, significant questions that we need to answer, that are going to have tremendous impact on people's lives and on the instruction that we deliver. So that's yet another question that we need to tackle. I know the PTO has been incredibly generous with purchasing laptops and technology for us. Well, our goal and our mission, which actually would be complete in September, irony of it all, was to have a cart in every single classroom so that the children wouldn't need to carry technology around. It would always be there for them, right? But now, do you see a computer cart in a classroom making a lot of sense? We don't. We don't. So maybe now the solution is to assign kids these devices so that they have them, because we can't be sanitizing and sterilizing computers all the time, right? So maybe, or maybe they get the computer in the beginning of the day, and then they use it, and then at the end of the day it goes back. Because if there are 30 kids in a 33 kids in a classroom, when we have the 33, they won't be using the same device, right? Other health related things to think about. It's almost like, you know, when you start on one thing, it kind of snowballs, and there are these unintended consequences of these sort of plans and things that come up. It's quite a challenge.
It's like
And
an
again,
onion. You start peeling and you just keep going.
yes,
So
sir.
what do we have? High school admissions so far. There's nothing on Screen Schools. There's nothing on the SHSAT. They're supposed to come out with something, and we don't believe it'll be favorable to what a lot of our parents think, as far as how they're going to populate screened high schools. The SHSAT is still on. We're hoping that it's not canceled by some kind of government executive order because of distancing. We would like Pearson, that's the test company that does this, to think about at home, giving the test at home, or coming up with some kind of arrangements so that these kids take the test, even if it's as late as December. But we are concerned that no good crisis will go, I don't know, what's the quote? We're going to take advantage of every good crisis, right? So we think that some people might take advantage of this crisis to do what they want and get rid of the SHSAT. But so that's when you have to call your politicians, you have to call your assembly members, your council members, your senators, and you have to make your concerns heard. Graduation, I know we talked about it briefly. I'm looking on here. The admissions books are online for high schools. I don't think they're any different than what they would have been had there been no pandemic. I don't think they were able to edit anything out, so it's probably eventually not going to be up to date.
I did get something about those books, and that it was a very odd email, because it did say that it was being mailed to the homes of all seventh graders, and then they listed only about 40 names of who they're mailing it to. So I'm not sure. I have our guidance department investigating that, but nevertheless, it would be exactly the same as the online version. And I do believe from the email that I got, it talked about there are two guides. There's a guide for New York City public high schools, and then there's a guide for the New York City specialized high schools. I think they combined it this year into one guide. So keep a lookout for that. The Dream Kids. Yeah, Dream is a program for selected students to prepare for the specialized high school exam.
Okay, I don't see any other questions in the chat. Anybody wants to chime in, please raise your hand to do so. We only have 5 minutes. I think next year the PTO is going to buy a subscription, because whatever happens, I really would like to use this format going forward. I think the combination of real meetings with reaching out to our parents remotely could really increase participation, and that's, you know, that's our mission, right? To get information out there. So that'll be a request on the budget items when we get back next year. Please, anybody let me know. We only have a few minutes left. New elections, yes, okay. So our offices are in place until October 31st of next year. Everything is the same. In October, I'm guessing whatever the second Tuesday of October is, we will have both SLT elections for anybody that's up or anybody who's graduating, as well as the PTO elections, right? All of our current PTO office holders, the main ones, myself, the recording secretary, the treasurer, they're staying. They're not graduating out. We are losing our vice president, and we are losing our co-treasurer. That's we want to thank them for their service. That's John and Terry Ann. They've done a great job over the years. I'm sorry they don't get their little award on the stage and get to sit on the stage with their child, but things happen, right? So October, we will do new elections. If anybody wants to run for any of the positions, we'll get it out there and we'll take it from there. How many years can each PA member serve? Is it a 2-year limit? So the answer is no. The bylaws state that parents are elected for 1-year terms with a maximum of 5 years, okay? And we did that at the time because we are a nonprofit and it is complicated and we really want continuity because in addition to all of the other Department of Education and Chancellor's regs, we also have to follow the guidelines for the IRS. So we want to make sure that we can do that and we can train people coming in. If anybody's interested in running and maybe wants to do this, please get involved starting in September. Senior dance, no. Senior, I mean, we don't know when they're going to allow us to meet in groups, right? We don't know if they're going to say 100 kids can get together at a restaurant anytime soon. I'm guessing the answer is going to be no, right? I mean, they're telling us, they're signaling that they don't want that to happen, right? So that means any kind of big event is not really going to be possible. So no, none of our PTO members have served a 5-year limit. And that 5-year limit is only if someone is running against them as well. Will we have state testing next year? I'm guessing that's going to be decided next year, right, Mr. Berman?
Yeah, I would say yes, plan for it, but you know, we just don't know.
Yeah.
We just don't know. You know, some countries have opened up and they're having some relapses and may have to shut down again. We just don't know. I think caution and caution is the word of the day, you know? Just be careful.
Yep. So with that, we have 1 minute and 20 seconds left. I would like to thank everybody. The SLT is going to be meeting in July and August. If there's some major things, please keep track on the Facebook page. I'll post on that, and I'll continue to send out emails, and we'll all take it from there. Hang in, stay healthy, everybody, and thank you so much for participating.